Originally, when I planned to sit down and record this solo episode, I was planning on breaking down the concept of community and opportunity based on this quote I reposted a couple weeks ago. But I decided to shift gears a little bit, coming off the heels of the first presidential debate between former Vice President Joe Biden and President Trump, and the passing of the notorious RBG, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I wanted to share my thoughts on what it means to be an ally and what it means to be an accomplice. Difference between those two. If these conversations are resonating with you, let me know that. Leave a rating, a comment, and check out the full show notes at www.cornerstoneconvoswellness.com/episode-show-notes. I know, it's a mouthful. That link is down in the show notes right there. With that full set of show notes, however, I put the full fact check, I put links to books and the documentaries, the movies that are discussed and mentioned throughout our convos. Share these convos with someone who you think could benefit, and hopefully start having your own. Hit subscribe so you never miss out on another episode. Enjoy! You are listening to the Cornerstone Conversations podcast, where we invite and ignite mindful moments through education-driven, people-oriented, principled conversation. I'm your host, CHRISTIE. IDIONG. Let's chat. Interruptions, lack of facilitation, the inability for both sides to really land what it is they plan to do. You name it, it happened. The first presidential debate was very hard to stomach. I think we being the majority expected a train wreck. I don't know if we expected the train to also be engulfed in flames. Now, if you've been following the Cornerstone Instagram, then you are familiar with the fact that I've been posting quotes every week for the last couple years. Originally, when I sat down to unpack my thoughts, I wanted to break down a quote that I reposted a couple weeks ago. And that quote is, "You need friends who would mention your name in a room full of opportunities." And that was originally posted by the Female Hustlers. Give them a follow. They are a phenomenal page. They have a bunch of great quotes and honestly just great mantras and mottos to live by. Sitting with that quote now versus a couple weeks ago, it's definitely holding a different amount of weight and a different meaning. So at the time, I was indulging and binging in my guilty pleasure, Big Brother. It's on CBS. It's honestly, I've been watching it since probably the second or so season. So this summer they're doing All Stars. It's very amended and all that jazz, but it was cool to see the old school players now mixed in with the new school players. And basically the premise is Survivor, but in a house. These house guests spend a few months within this house, no social media, they don't really see their families, they don't even get pencils and paper, which I just recently learned. And they're playing this game to see who can stay in the house the longest. So every week there are competitions. There's a head of household. Whoever's head of household decides who gets to stay in the house or who they're going to put up for eviction. 2 people are put up for eviction every week. It's called the block, for the slang of that. And then there's a power of veto, which you play in that, you can take someone off of that eviction block, or you can save yourself, or you can just not use it. So this rant, in a sense, the reason why that quote made me think of that in the time was multiple alliances are built throughout this period of time, throughout the summer. There's Final 2 deals, there's deals of Final 4s, there's big alliances made, there's smaller alliances made, and if you're on the outskirts of those bigger alliances, your chances of survival in the house are very, very slim. I cannot even imagine the psych part of that and the stress part of that. Being in a house where you think that the whole house is against you, you're constantly in a form of stress where you might be kicked out of the house, and they're also to mention, they're playing for $500,000. So it's money that is very life-changing, even after taxes. So what happens is a lot of conversations occur in many different rooms. I guess I took a literal spin on this, but if I am in an alliance with someone and I'm aligning with someone who I feel I trust, and there's a possibility that I'm not in the same room as them when deals are being made and information's being drawn, I need to trust that that individual is coming to me with that same knowledge. So what I've always find interesting is how they've decided, like, yes, I trust this person, I align with them. I don't know what it is. There has to be a science behind it. I'm sure they have tons of research in it just on that show alone. They're in season 22, which is insane. But it kind of goes to that thought of, like, you need to be in a room where those opportunities are happening. So let's say I'm getting a side deal with a couple other people for a final 3 deal. Am I pulling in my number one, my untouchable? Am I bringing them in the room and saying, like, no, like, they're good for it. They're good at competitions. They have a great social game. They can be a shield. They know how to talk, and we can beat them when it comes to final 2, right? So are we speaking towards that in the scope of, are we speaking for our friends? Are we speaking for our peers and our coworkers? That was my original thought in having this conversation with myself, right? But now, having taught a few more lectures with cultural competency in between that time of originally posting and the passing of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I feel as though I'd be remiss to not speak on the legacy of activism that the notorious RBG has left behind in talking about individuals in the room where it happens. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a trailblazer. There is a litany of rights that women, cisgender women more specifically, but women now benefit from, including but not limited to being able to attend state-funded schools. Before Ginsburg, state-funded schools did not have to admit women. Women could not sign a mortgage or a bank account without a male cosigner. Ginsburg helped women make strides towards equal pay, which we still got a lot of work to do, but big strides. Her presence on the court preserved a woman's right to choose, pro-choice, the control of a woman over her own body, right? She pushed to protect pregnant women in the workplace. There was not that protection of, if I go to have a child and go on maternity leave, that my job would still be there. She advocated for women being on juries and serving on those juries. Prior to that, it was mostly all men. And honestly, one of my favorites, she was the key vote in granting same-sex marriages. Supreme Court decision where same-sex marriages could happen federally back in 2015, summer 2015, I believe June. For women to have control over their own bodies without the say of a man. For members of the LGBTQ+ to be seen, to be heard, equitably and equally, in every way that their heterosexual cisgender counterparts get to experience life. Now, with all that being said, now there is a potential for her seat to be replaced with someone that could not only stall that progress of strides being made, but would not be able to have entered those doors had it not been for Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And it is a real fear of many that these rights will be overturned, taken, and stalled. And rather than us invalidating and insulting these concerns, we have to listen. We have to hear them. We have to hold space for them. And we need to fight like hell for them. She has left behind a phenomenal legacy of allyship. And if we think about what allyship is, to be an ally is to align with, support a cause with another individual or a group of people. More so that you might not identify with. If you are a part of a dominant group or a majority group, being an ally is the work to end that oppression in personal life, their professional life, to support that oppressed population. Now, the language is definitely shifting. Language shifts in activism somewhat quickly, like it does in science. The language of accomplice has been also added into the mix. To be an accomplice is more so the focus, it's one step further than an ally, and it's more so the focus in dismantling the structures that oppress that individual or that group, right? It's an alliance. It's to say that I don't know exactly what you're feeling, and I'm not going to get taken away those rights that you would, but I'm going to fight like hell. So that your rights aren't taken. And quite frankly, if you've never had the Supreme Court determine the rights to your body, the rights to who you love, the rights to, with the job that you enter, the rights to certain discriminations of how you look and how you have to dress professionally, you are in a state of privilege and you're a part of a majority dominant group. Allyship, being an accomplice, is walking the walk after you've talked the talk. And it's when no one is watching that you're doing so. It's not performative. It's not reaching out to your friends in these targeted groups and telling them all that you're doing. It's just doing it, There are certain spaces that I unfortunately will never be able to enter from the scope of how individuals talk. There are certain spaces that people of color will never truly be able to enter and speak freely and truly. There are certain spaces that transgender individuals will never be able to enter and speak truly fully, and it's unfortunate. Ruth Bader Ginsburg talked about women deserve to be in rooms where decisions are being made. Let's go one step further. Women, transgender folks, biracial, people of color, Black people, Native American, Indigenous people, individuals with disabilities, any and every member of a targeted, oppressed group deserves and needs to be in rooms where decisions are being made, especially if it is affecting them. And if they are not able to get in these rooms, they deserve friends, they deserve family, they deserve coworkers, they deserve peers, they deserve employers who are going to mention their name in a room full of opportunities. Period. So if you're not there yet and you're not being that, today's the day to start. Not too late. Take an active role in finding out the government officials that are up for election this year. Sit in the discomfort of having these tough conversations. It's okay to be uncomfortable. It's equivalent to it's okay being sore after a workout. The soreness that occurs after a good workout tends to be those micro tears that are occurring in the muscle, and that's what's allowing for that growth and eventual hypertrophy or that eventual growth of the muscle. What we don't want is pain. Soreness versus pain. It's okay if you don't know what to say in the moment. I don't know what to say in this moment. I really just need to sit with this discomfort. So what I want to urge you to do, I want to urge you, the listener, to do, I want you to delve into how you can be an ally or an accomplice today for a group that you don't necessarily identify with personally. There was another post out there by the goddess Cecilia about our social justice love languages, right? Physical touch, words of affirmation, gift giving, acts of service, quality time. While there's a wrong way to help, there is a litany of right ways. Find the way that works best for you. Today's a great day to have a great day. Get after it.